When the messenger from the guildmaster crossed the threshold, Freida allowed herself exactly one thought. I knew this day would come. She issued orders before the man finished speaking. In the calm voice she considered her best asset, revealing no trace of urgency. Only after closing her grandfather's door behind her did she breathe more deeply. From the thin chain at her neck, she drew two keys, one for the room, one for the safe within. Inside, arranged like relics, lay the magic tools her grandfather had purchased from nobles using the full extent of his fortune. There had been 10 once. Now there were only a few. The necklace-shaped tool she lifted was so old it could fall apart if handled improperly. Nobles only sold commoners tools like this, worn out and nearly broken, mortgaged against a person's last hope. "Are you certain about this, my lady?" asked Jut. Freida cut away her hesitation. "Quite certain. Myne is the first friend I've ever had. If a magic tool is the price for getting her to join our store, then so be it." True, but not the whole truth. The whole truth was that Myne was a golden egg, someone with a head full of product ideas the city had never seen, already valuable enough that the Gilberta Company had registered her temporarily just to hold her. Freida wanted that golden egg fiercely. She also wanted the girl herself, a friend her own age, sick with the same disease, moving toward the same calculated future. She wanted both with everything her careful, mercantile heart possessed. My grandfather told Benno that each tool was worth a small gold and 2 large silvers, she added. In truth, they are worth 2 small golds and 8 large silvers. Benno said Myne could afford it. We will see if he was right. And if she cannot pay? Freida smiled. She will need to join the Uthmar Company. Even a large gold in losses would be worth Myne's employment. She had as many plans as it would take. She always did. The feeling of being swallowed by heat was familiar. I focused my mind as hard as I could, just like last time, and shoved the heat back. I haven't even made a book yet. Come on. But despite doing everything I had done before, there was simply too much this time. No matter how hard I pushed, it pushed back harder. And then, suddenly, it started getting sucked away, like a vacuum cleaner was pulling it from me. All right, get out of here. I was so delighted I started shooing it away with my hands like a dog, pushing more toward the vacuum. And then I heard a large snap. The heat stopped leaving. Did I break it? Did I do something really bad just now? About half the heat remained. I gathered the rest like things being packed for a move, stuffed it into an imaginary cardboard box, and pushed it to the back of a mental closet. I opened my eyes to dark green curtains on all sides, a canopy bed, light filtered in by my feet. The bed beneath me was soft and warm, nothing like my straw mattress at home. Wait, did I reincarnate as a noble this time? I grabbed a lock of hair and held it in front of my eyes. Dark blue, my own hands, still mine. Not reincarnated again. Memories returned slowly. Benno, the messenger to the guildmaster, the heat that had swallowed me whole. Have you awoken, Myne? How much do you remember? The curtains rustled, and Freida entered with a lit candle shining on her light rosy hair. She sat on the chair by the bed and gently pushed me back down when I tried to sit up. I told her about the vacuum cleaner sensation and the snap. She nodded. That is mostly correct. I packed as much of your heat as I could into the old magic tool. It broke, but I imagine it took much of your devouring heat with it. Great. Really, so much better. But magic tools are really expensive. Freida's expression carried an amused smile with something coiled inside it. Indeed, the one that just broke was worth 2 small golds and 8 large silvers. Benno said that you would be able to afford that. I stopped. 2 small golds and 8 large silvers, exactly the amount Benno had paid me for the extra Rinsham information. Not the small gold and 2 large silvers the guildmaster had quoted him. The real price. He had known from the beginning and quietly made sure I would have enough. I'll pay. Freida's eyes went wide, then narrowed into a small pout. You've escaped me once again. If you hadn't been able to afford it, we would have had you register with the Uthmar Company. Grandfather told Benno the lower price. I was certain you wouldn't have enough. It seems that Benno thought one step ahead of us. Good job past me for turning down those 2 small golds. And Benno, the best decision you ever made was raising my payment exactly high enough to cover this. Freida's tone shifted to something carefully composed. But that is not the end of the problem. What the tool did was merely suck some water out of an overly full cup. There is still water in the cup, waiting to refill, and as you grow older, the overall amount will increase. The bigger the cup gets, the faster the water increases. I can imagine it will only take a year at best before it is filled up entirely again. I nodded. Half a year ago, it was worse than a year ago. A month ago, worse than half a year. Therefore, Myne, think well and choose. Would you rather live and die as a noble's slave, or would you rather live with your family and rot away in a year's time? She explained what I hadn't known. Magic tools were held almost exclusively by nobles. Her grandfather had purchased these old, nearly broken ones by leveraging his connections and paying exorbitant sums, but outside the ones they owned, there were none for sale. A commoner with the Devouring had one path to survival: sign a contract to work for a noble in return for tools and work the rest of their life as that noble's slave to pay back the debt. Is that what you did, Freida? Her expression blossomed into a smile. Indeed, I have already signed, although I am allowed to live at home until my adulthood ceremony. Upon coming of age, he will take me as his mistress. Wah! Mistress? Do you know what that word means? She looked puzzled. The initial discussions had involved becoming a second or third wife, she explained calmly, but an official marriage would be complicated due to succession lines and competition between wives. Her family was wealthier than a lay noble, which would only cause strife. Instead, a store in the noble's district, not a floor in his estate, but an entire store of her own. 30% of profits to her master, but physical distance enough to avoid most problems. That was the best deal possible, and her family was satisfied with it. Gah! Guildmaster, what kind of things are you telling this kid? Freida's expression cooled. Myne, I am saying this for your benefit. Choosing to live means choosing to live in the world of nobility. If you do not maneuver carefully, you will be killed for other reasons, even if magic tools save your life. Information is critical. She paused. If you ever have any concerns about your devouring, feel free to consult me. I believe I might be the only one who will ever truly understand what you're going through. That, more than anything, made me feel less alone. The next morning, I saw the room for the first time in daylight. Thick carpet, curtains over wavy glass, simple furnishings that each cost more than they had any right to. A servant offered me warm water and a change of clothes, a hand-me-down of Freida's. My heart raced at the feel of material that wasn't patchwork. In the dining room, Freida and the guildmaster were waiting. It's good that you're well again, he said, but don't expect us to sell another magic tool. We're saving them for Freida in case something happens to her. He's not wrong. He bought all of them for her sake. I'm just thankful he let me use even one. Then breakfast. White bread with honey, and as much honey as I wanted, which was verging on miraculous. The soup was a disappointment. They boiled vegetables and threw out the water with all the flavor inside, a destructive practice deeply ingrained in this world's culinary culture. But the eggs, the bacon, the fruit for dessert, a hearty breakfast that would have felt at home in Japan. The guildmaster watched me eat with furrowing brows. Who taught you those manners, Myne? Nobody. This is just how I eat. Technically true. He didn't look satisfied. And before I could answer any follow-up questions, I noticed both him and Freida giving me the same calculating look, like lions who had just identified prey. I think I'll go ahead and pay for the magic tool. With money. I tapped my guild card against the guildmaster's and finished the transaction before anyone could think of a reason to raise the price. He actually paid you that much, the guildmaster murmured. Curse you, Benno. Benno, you absolute genius. You saved me. My family dropped by briefly before work. Dad started racing toward me. Mom stepped between them and pushed him aside. Thule handed Freida a small jar of rinchum, the only thank you gift I could think of other than money. And with her baptism the next day, the timing was perfect. Dad asked if I was coming home that evening, eyes pleading. Freida stepped neatly between us. No, Myne would stay until the baptism, as agreed yesterday. Lutz arrived right after they left, as if he had been waiting outside for them to clear the room. He pressed the back of his hand to my forehead and neck just as Freida had. His hands were almost unbelievably colder than hers. For a year at best, right? He frowned, not celebrating yet. I can use that time to think up a bunch of stuff and search for a solution. I'm going to make a book, definitely. That's all you ever say, Myne. But all right, I'll go tell Benno. He said he might come see you this afternoon. The moment Benno's name left his mouth, Freida's expression hardened into a solid pout. She had been listening from behind. I'm afraid that won't be a good time for us. We'll be busy making sweets at about that time. Isn't that right, Myne? I could already picture it, sitting helplessly between them as sparks flew. Sorry, Lutz. Tell Benno I'll drop by the store later. After Lutz left, Freida glared at the door with her competitive spirit burning fiercely, then turned to me with cheeks puffed out in a way that was objectively extremely cute. You coddle Lutz too much. I don't think so. If anything, he takes care of me way more than he has to. Her pout deepened. She pointed a finger at me. Very well then, I will take care of you myself. Wha? Why? You are my very best friend, but I am not your best friend. It's infuriating. I absolutely wanted to poke her cheeks. Okay, think about it like this. We can do girl things together that I could never do with Lutz. We could bathe together, wash each other's hair, roll around in bed and talk. Would that cheer you up? Her expression brightened entirely. My, how wonderful. Shall we go to the chef then? In the kitchen stood Lize, a plump woman about my mother's age, just finishing cleaning up after breakfast. The critical questions: flour, butter, sugar, eggs? Yes. An oven? She shifted aside to reveal a large firewood oven, and my heart bloomed. Pans for the oven? Scales? Of course. Then I remembered. Every recipe I knew was measured in grams. Nobody here measured in grams. I thought fast. Pound cake. Quatre-Quarts, from a French confectionery book. 4 ingredients, each in exactly equal quantities. Flour, eggs, butter, sugar. No complex proportions, just a scale. We're going to make pound cake, I told Lice. 4 ingredients, each in the same amount. She'd never heard of it, but she agreed to try. We started by heating water first. No gas stoves here. Patience was required. Lice beat the eggs and sugar together over warm water until they foamed and turned from yellow to white, growing bigger all the while. Freida watched with wide eyes and asked to try. She beat enthusiastically for about a minute before her arms gave out. Devouring girls didn't have that kind of sustained strength. I sifted the flour 3 times to aerate it. We smeared the inside of a small metal pot, no proper cake pan, but the best substitute, with butter and a dusting of flour. Lace folded in the flour with chopping motions to protect the foam, added melted butter slowly and gently, then poured the batter into the pot, picked it up, and dropped it against the counter several times to release extra air. The oven door closed with a thud. Freida took up her vigil in front of it. When Lace checked, the cake had risen nicely, but the back was darker than the front. We turned it around and waited. The iron skewer test. First pass, wet dough on the metal. Not yet. Second pass, clean. Done, though the top had gone a little dark from the oven running hot. Inside the pot, a fluffy, well-cooked cake that looked exactly like Castella. I tasted it first, exactly what I was going for. Lesa followed. Freida hesitated, then threw a piece into her mouth. Both of them turned to look at me at the exact same moment, eyes very wide, wearing expressions that reminded me uncomfortably of the guildmaster at breakfast. Freida, let's eat this at tea time. Now's a good time to take a bath. I grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door before either of them could ask a single question. Thank you for your help, Lass. The bathing room in the basement stopped me cold in the doorway. White marble floors and tub, large enough for 2 or 3 adults to stretch out in. At one end, a statue of a girl holding a jar poured a constant stream of hot water. Overflow ran out the other side at the same rate, keeping everything warm. A tiled ceiling and a high window let in winter light that reflected off all that white and made the room glow. I had not been in a real bathtub in over a year. Aha! Surprised? Freida slipped into the water with the ease of someone who did this regularly. My grandfather recreated the design from a noble's villa. I don't normally use it, but as my baptism is tomorrow, he gave me special permission. I washed Freida's hair with the rinsham, explaining each step. Her hair was already silky and well-groomed before we started. Yuta took excellent care of her. The rinsham was almost a luxury wasted on her. I filed a note to report this to Benno. Noble's hair was already so well kept that Rinsham might not sell as well to that market as we'd hoped. When the time came to rinse, Freida rested her head on the edge of the tub and let her hair hang over the side, while Jute carefully poured water through it. I watched and was deeply relieved I hadn't offered to just dump a bucket on her head. Then Freida climbed out and turned to me with shining eyes. I would like to try washing your hair as well. Jute sat beside us under the guise of practice, really there to prevent her young mistress from making any costly mistakes. Small and large fingers worked my scalp together. I held very still and didn't laugh. Once I was clean, I entered the tub and rested my head on the edge as Freida had done. Jute's gentle hands and the warm water worked through my hair, and I nearly fell asleep. Then Freida was beside me in the water, both of us looking up at the ceiling through steam, and she asked how I usually washed my hair. I fill a half-sized bucket with diluted rinsham, dunk my hair in and rub, then wipe it with a cloth several times. The only way to manage without easy access to hot water. Do you own this rinsham? No, I sold all the rights to Benno. Something clicked. The statue was constantly adding hot water. The tub never cooled the way a normal tub would. Freida, you should leave the tub earlier than you normally would. This water stays hot, so you'll overheat if you stay in as long as usual. She tested it, leaving earlier than she ever had. When she stepped out, her body was flushed pink, but her head wasn't spinning. I'm fine this time. Good. Yudi offered massages with scented oil. Freida accepted. Her grandfather said she needed to grow accustomed to these things before entering noble society. I declined. I had no way to wipe the oil off once I got home, and Thule would have been exasperated with me. While Judy worked, I sat and thought about what preparation for Freida's future actually looked like from the inside. The Devouring had kept her housebound. The contract had sealed her future before she could choose it. The expensive rooms, the massages, the lessons. Her grandfather was training her for a life he had arranged and expecting a return. He sure loves you a lot, huh? He is investing for the future. Both can be true. I thought of his face when he ordered her hairpins. When he ordered your hairpins, he looked just like a grandfather who would give the world for his granddaughter. She was quiet for a moment. Then, amazing, Myne. My hair's so silky. She ran a hand through her finished hair with pure delight. I'm glad you both like it. Thank you. If the guildmaster hadn't gathered those tools for you, I wouldn't have been able to buy one with the money I had. The morning of the baptism, I ate breakfast alone in my room. The maid who brought my food told me cheerfully that the entire family wanted to meet me. Apparently, last night's dinner had been consumed by conversation about the pound cake. I used my poor health as a shield and felt no guilt whatsoever. Jute came to collect me to help with Freida's hairpins, and I followed her up to the third floor. Freida's room had red and pink canopy curtains, a writing desk on the opposite wall, and no dolls or toys anywhere. She sat with her extraordinary pink hair being carefully brushed, looking like a life-size doll. For 2 hairpins, the braided half-up style I'd made for Thule would be wasteful. I decided on 2 braids instead and explained each step while working on the right side. Judy memorized the technique from the left and then took over both sides. My hands were too small to keep Freida's silky hair from slipping out. Judy had no such problem. When she inserted the hairpins through the woven strings, each pin bearing 4 dark red mini roses with white flowers and green leaf accents visible from every angle, the effect was extraordinary. Yep, these are even better than I expected. They're perfect for you, Freida. You look exceptionally cute, my lady, Judy agreed, in a tone that suggested she'd been waiting all morning to say exactly that. Several maids helped Freida into her outfit simultaneously. One arm, then the other. Buttons, strings, shoes, a choreography that clearly required years of practice. Her white outfit had warm-looking fur at the collar and was embroidered with bright red and pink, perfectly matched to both her hair and her hairpins. When she spun to check herself, she looked like a princess. Then the guildmaster walked past the partition. Goodness gracious, you look splendid, Freida. Such magnificent bundles of flowers are so rare for this winter season that you resemble the spring-bearing goddess of sprouts. Truly adorable. Freida smiled with one finger resting on her hairpin. The hairpins you bought look wonderful on me, do they not? The guildmaster practically broke down where he stood. Then he spotted me at the window. I had 1 second before he crossed the room, clasped my hands, and spoke with actual tears forming in his eyes. I had done him a great favor. He had never seen Freida this happy over anything he had ever given her. I'm just glad she likes it. Someone help me, please. Behind him, the whole family entered at once, her father, her mother, two brothers aged approximately 10 and 12, all of them speaking simultaneously. Before I could manage a single complete sentence in response, the brothers pushed their faces up so close to mine I could count their eyelashes. "Wow, you're real," said the older one. "She said a lot about you, but I was sure you were just an imaginary friend. Didn't think I'd ever see the real thing." "What do you mean? You didn't think you'd see the real thing? Am I some kind of rare monster with a low encounter rate?" Both brothers grabbed an arm each. "Come with us. Let's celebrate Freida's baptism together." I shook my head desperately, but naturally no one in this family had the gene for listening to the word no. Freida sighed. "Brothers, Myne is unwell. She will be watching from the window." They let me go with glum expressions, remembering, I was sure, how Freida had spent her own childhood watching from windows instead of being outside. Jude gathered them all with quiet authority, and the family swept out in a warm, chaotic wave. I watched the tornado recede. Eating breakfast alone had been exactly the right call. Freida's window had straight glass, suited for looking outside, better than the wavy glass in my guest room. VIP seating for the procession. I wrapped myself in a shawl Jute provided and watched. Freida stood among her neighbors like a composed, luminous princess. Her hairpins caught the eye immediately. Almost no other child had any. The white flowers against her pink hair were extraordinary. I thought of Thule, standing in a similar crowd a year ago, and felt certain she had been the most beautiful girl there, at least for a little while. Thinking about Thule made me think about all of them, and before I knew it, I was quietly homesick for a poverty-stricken apartment I had only left 3 days ago. My family arrived at noon bell. Dad came racing toward me with outstretched arms. Mom stepped neatly in front of him. "I'm so glad you've woken up. I was so worried." "Just a little. I missed you just a little," I told Dad. Freida's family invited us to lunch, but Mom was firm, and I settled it by saying I wanted Mom's cooking for the first time in what felt like weeks. Thule pouted the whole way home that their fancy food was probably better. Dad carried me on his shoulders through the whole walk back. Our poverty-stricken apartment was waiting. No canopy bed, no marble bathtub, no white bread with unlimited honey. Every expensive, comfortable thing at Freida's had delighted and exhausted me in equal measure. And now, stepping through our door, I felt something in my chest loosen that I hadn't realized was tight. This place had become home. I hadn't noticed it happening, but it had.